Hello and welcome to my channel. If you are new here, hi, hey, hello. My name is Meg and we do crafty things here. So if you like crafty things, please do consider subscribing. And if you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for subscribing and tuning in to another video. So today we're doing a speed knot. We haven't done one in a long time. And to be honest, I haven't had a lot of time to craft lately. So over the couple days that we were closed at work, I wanted to get some crafting in, and I felt like doing something kind of Christmas themed. So I chose pattern 111863, which is a holiday Starbucks cup, because your girl loves Starbucks, okay? It is so good. I love the flavor of their coffee, and I'm definitely like a black coffee drinker. So I find their coffee just doesn't really have like any super weird aftertaste or anything that some other places do. So I'm all about that Starbucks. This fit the mold perfectly. Now, I'm a little bit torn because obviously leading up to this point, the steam, the lid, everything was like chef's kiss, straight, clean, looking crisp and good. And then I introduced the metallic string. And I thought it would be fun to do the cup like all metallic colors. And the concept is fun. I think it still turned out looking okay, but I should have followed my original gut instinct because I don't work with metallic thread a ton. And it felt thicker in my hands than the other thread I was using. And I was like, maybe I should cut some of this out. No. So I started using it and I was finding I was having to pull it really, really tight. Like it was hurting my fingers how tight I was having to pull it to even get a semblance of like even consistent knot size. So it's I got to this third row into the cup and I was kind of being forced to make some decisions here. And this knot is kind of the one that drove me to it. I'll zoom in a bit so you guys can see just how off things were starting to get. This is a prime example of why you shouldn't mix strings. You can see this copper knot almost looks like it is lined up underneath the red knot there, and it should be underneath the copper knot in the row above. And so you can see me just playing with like all the strings, like adjusting everything in the row. I'm like, pull this a little bit snugger, pull this, tuck things in. I kid you not, guys. I cut out like 3 solid minutes of me playing and adjusting with untying knots and retying knots. And like it wasn't happening. It just wasn't happening. And I knew that. So I don't know why I did it in the first place. But ultimately I decided rather than undo all of those knots, because I do find this metallic stuff more difficult to untie, I was just going to snip a single thread out. Now this was a little bit more difficult because the pattern was obviously started, everything was taped down, so it was a little bit more difficult than when you can like lay your entire string across the lap and like split it out. But I did just cut out one, and I didn't throw it out because these metallic skeins are expensive. I wound them and put the scraps into like this tiny Bath and Body Works like candle jar that I cleaned out, and just keeps it separate from some of my other strip string from when I'm doing like, like odd colors and stuff in a bracelet. So I did keep that. I can maybe add it in or play with adding it into threads in a different bracelet or something, but I do kind of wish I had even cut one more strand out of this metallic stuff. The difference was night and day. Like immediately easier to get consistent size knots, more in size with the rest of the pattern. However, and I'll do a close-up at the end and probably talk about this a little more because I feel like in this shot it's not super noticeable at this point, but essentially what happened was when the metallic thread was its full thickness, the knots were coming out longer than they were round. which will give you an elongated picture. It's like a fairly common alpha issue, especially for beginners. And in this case, it was because I was trying to pull so tight and squeeze them into a bracelet that has started a lot smaller than what these metallic threads really needed. So in cutting that out, I was able to get the consistent knot size easier, but my knots became more round, which you can start to see here. That caused a lot of ballooning out on the sides to expand for the knots that are now more round. So I think even though it would have felt thinner than the other thread to cut down 2 threads out of that entire strand, I think because the knots don't tie as tight as a cotton or polyester string like our normal embroidery floss, I think it would have equaled out to be about the same size. So I will test that again in the future with a different pattern because I do have a few metallic threads now, but I did want to just put that out there in case anyone's thinking about playing with metallic thread. Once I cut it down a bit, it wasn't as hard on my fingers. It's obviously not as soft as using like embroidery thread, right? And surprisingly, this didn't fray as much as I remember metallic thread fraying before, but I mean, I wasn't complaining, I will tell you that much. And we can really see again the effects of those longer knots in the bowing at the bottom. So a few common issues that I have showed off before on my channel, what happens when you mix threads, and the prime reason you don't want to really mix brands or threads, because some brands may say they have the same amount of strands in their floss, but their strands may be thicker than the other or made of a different material, which can cause issues like this if you're not careful. Otherwise though, I think this pattern is a really cute. I may make another one without metallic thread or do one of the other ones with metallic thread and cut out that second string and see how it goes. But I did try to compensate a little bit within this pattern to fix that issue. So at the end, it's not as terribly prominent as it was at some points we see here. Okay, so here is the finished product. Now there were some things I liked and things I didn't so much like about how this turned out. Firstly, I think it's a really cute pattern. Like I've already said, I am like obsessed with Starbucks. Mostly because it's like the closest coffee shop to me and I just like really strong coffee. So what I don't like though is I definitely should have stripped this metallic string down more, which I kind of had a feeling as I was cutting it, it felt a little bit thicker, and I knew within tying like the first couple knots, but I was like, well, maybe I'll just make it work. And then by the time it was what, like in here-ish, I switched, and you can kind of see I trimmed it down. You can kind of see those knots get smaller, but the funny thing that kind of happened was the knots here were a little bit longer because I couldn't get them as tight. So I actually found that after I cut out one of the threads, the knots became like rounder. So you guys can probably see that. Like this knot definitely looks longer than like this one, for instance, right? Like vertically, it's definitely longer. And this is more of that like round shape that you want with an alpha to get that like pixelated, not stretched out look. So I think that was kind of funny because what that ended up doing, as we can see, because I switched here within this first couple rows, it ballooned, which was pretty expected. And then because those knots couldn't get as tight, even I should have cut out 2 threads instead of 1, I think, and I would have been able to get a better result, simply because like the nature of the metallic thread, like you physically, it doesn't hold a knot as well, so you can't get it as tight as like this normal cotton or polyester string that you use, the normal embroidery floss. So by default, I should have cut it, like it felt about the same when I cut it down just 1 thread out. I think I should have cut it out too. It would have felt a little bit thinner than like this stuff, but I think if I had cut out 2 strands of it, my knot size would have been more consistent to this. And you guys know, I don't use metallic string a ton. So for me, this was a little bit of a learning experience. It's been a very long time since I've used any like full metallic string, and I really wanted to try it. So all in all, I am really happy with the pattern. I think it would be fun to do this pattern. Like, I'm gonna keep this as like a little Halloween decoration, Christmas decoration to like put on my tree. I think it'd be kind of fun to do a new one every year with like the new Christmas cup design. I think that'd be kind of fun. And just have like a little collection. But yeah, I think this pattern was really, really cute. I may make another one that's just like a normal like Starbucks cup and just do it without the metallic string, because I think it would turn out really, really good. But I'm a little bit PO'd because this is so nice and straight, and then we get to like here and it starts to balloon and stuff. Kind of disappointing. But all in all, I think it's really cute. Obviously, for the same reason, like these stretched knots in here and just these knots being bigger overall, we can see that bowing that happens, which is generally why you don't want to mix and mingle your strings in an alpha, especially because it is very, very noticeable. So I did manage to even it out a little bit. I tried to compensate in the sides a bit by going a little bit looser to try and reduce that bowing a bit. And though it may have helped this like bowing situation a bit, it definitely didn't help the expansion here. I did like a little tip for that is obviously once I've pulled the tape off, I can pull this like the top and actually like stretch it out some. But take a bowl of hot water or a container of hot water and throw some fabric softener in it. Let your piece soak in it, and then once it's like wet, you can kind of rub it. I've heard actually one of you guys told me I should like rub it on the side of the table. I don't do that because I find like rubbing or aggravating it too much sometimes damages the threads. But I definitely try to work it a bit with my fingers and just physically loosen up the fabric some. And that definitely did help a little bit, I think, compared to what it looked like before I did that. And then I just like set it out to dry and all that jazz. So I'm pretty happy with how this turned out, and hopefully you guys had a great Christmas and are having a good New Year's. Let me know what your New Year's resolutions are down below. Do you have any bracelet or craft related ones? Let me know down below, and there will be more videos coming now that I'm getting kind of into the groove of this schedule that I'm on now. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and we'll get a lot of videos up into the new year here. I'm really excited for that. I really have been dying to make videos, but I'm also like dying for sleep. So have to put my actual physical health above, you know, everything else. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and hopefully I look forward to spending a whole great new year with you guys. Thank you. Bye.